Ethan, an average 16-year-old high school student, has always felt like something was missing from his life. He's a good student, a decent athlete, and has a few close friends, but he never quite felt like he belonged. One evening, after a long day of classes, Ethan lies in bed, feeling restless. He's just about to drift off to sleep when he has a strange, vivid dream. In it, a figure cloaked in shadows stands before him, glowing symbols surrounding them. The figure speaks cryptically. "The power is within you, Ethan. Find the source and claim what's yours." Ethan wakes up with a start, his heart racing. Was it just a dream, or was there some truth to it? He brushes it off as a random nightmare, but the next morning, things start to change. While on his way to school, Ethan accidentally bumps into a metal railing, and a surge of energy pulses through his body. His hand glows with bright electricity, shocking him and causing his whole body to jolt back. He gasps, confused and frightened. Could it be the dream was telling him something real? At school, things take an even stranger turn. During his chemistry class, as he absent-mindedly scribbles in his notebook, the chalk in front of him suddenly starts to float midair. Ethan's heart races as he watches the chalk defy gravity, hovering in the air for a brief second before it crashes back down. His classmates stare in disbelief. Ethan's mind races, trying to rationalize what just happened. Could it have something to do with the dream? That night, he receives a cryptic text message from an unknown number. The message reads, "The power is awakening, Ethan. The source is waiting for you." It sends a chill down his spine. Who knows about this power? How does someone know his name? Later that evening, as he walks home, Ethan's curiosity leads him to a dark alleyway he's never noticed before. Something draws him toward it, and as he steps inside, he feels a strange pull toward a wall. To his shock, he notices a glowing symbol etched onto the brick, exactly like the ones in his dream. His hand instinctively reaches out to touch it, and as soon as his fingers make contact, an electric surge courses through him. The world around him seems to flicker, like time itself is bending. His senses blur for a moment before the glow fades, and everything returns to normal. Ethan stands there, shaken and uncertain about what just happened. Suddenly, he hears a voice, soft, almost whispering, "This is just the beginning, Ethan. You have been chosen." With his heart pounding, Ethan backs away from the symbol, his mind racing. What's happening to him? Who's behind this? Why him? And what is the source he's supposed to find? He realizes that this mysterious power has changed everything, and his life will never be the same again. Stay tuned. Who is behind Ethan's new powers? What's the source he must find? Don't miss the next episode of The Chosen One. The adventure is just beginning. Ethan's heart races as he struggles to understand the source of his new powers. The feeling of raw energy coursing through him is both exhilarating and terrifying. He can barely control it, and it's becoming harder to hide his abilities from his friends and family. As much as he wants to keep his secret, Ethan knows he has to find answers, and fast. The uncertainty gnaws at him, and the fear of losing control grows with each passing day. In an attempt to make sense of his powers, Ethan spends hours scouring the internet, searching for any mention of people like him, others with strange, unexplained abilities. He doesn't find much, but one night, as he's walking home, a strange feeling overcomes him. Something is watching him. He follows his instincts and makes his way to an old, abandoned library on the edge of town. It's quiet, the air thick with dust, and the shelves are covered in forgotten books. Ethan feels as though the library is calling to him. He knows there's something here, something he needs to find. As he explores the library, Ethan discovers a peculiar book tucked away in a hidden corner. The pages are old and yellowed, but as he flips through them, he begins to see something that shakes him to his core. References to the Chosen Ones. A group of people who, like him, have been granted incredible powers, but each one of them paid a steep price. The book also mentions that many of these individuals have disappeared or been hunted by those who seek to control their powers. Ethan's mind races with questions. Could he be next? Who is hunting the Chosen Ones and why? Just as he begins to piece things together, a figure steps out of the shadows. A young woman with dark eyes and a calm demeanor introduces herself as Raven. She knows about Ethan's powers, and she warns him that he isn't the only one chosen by fate. She reveals that she too is a chosen one, and like him, she's being hunted by a mysterious force determined to steal their abilities. Raven explains that their powers are connected to an ancient force, one that many believe could control the flow of time itself. But the power comes with a dangerous cost. Ethan can feel that Raven speaks the truth, but he's unsure whether he can trust her completely. He doesn't know if he should team up with her or keep searching for answers on his own. Before they can discuss their next move, a massive explosion rocks the city in the distance, sending a shockwave of energy through the streets. Raven looks at Ethan, her eyes wide with fear. "That's no accident," she says urgently. "Someone with powers like ours is near." Ethan's heart sinks as he realizes this is just the beginning. They may be the hunted, but now they have no choice but to fight back. What's the connection between Ethan and Raven? And who are these mysterious enemies hunting them? Find out in the next episode. Subscribe now and don't miss the next thrilling chapter of The Chosen One. Ethan's life seems like it's spiraling out of control. Not only are his powers becoming increasingly difficult to control, but now, the strange dreams are worsening. The shadows are growing darker, and every night, the figure in his dreams gets closer. A voice whispers to him, a voice that feels familiar but distant, telling him that there are others like him, and some are hunting him down. One morning, Ethan wakes up to find his arm's glowing symbol pulsating stronger than before. He can't ignore the strange sensation. It's as if the symbol is calling to him. At school, he tries to act normal, but it's hard to concentrate with the overwhelming thoughts of his power and the dreams. As he walks through the halls, he notices a new student sitting in the cafeteria, observing him from afar. The student's stare feels cold, unblinking, unnerving. Ethan feels the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The new student, who goes by the name Zane, is quiet and strange, always in the background. But there's something about him that Ethan can't shake. In class, Zane seems to know more about Ethan than any stranger should. He mentions the glowing symbol on Ethan's arm, calling it the Mark of the Chosen. Zane's words send chills down Ethan's spine. After school, Ethan tries to talk to his best friend, Max, but the weight of his secret is too heavy. His powers continue to grow uncontrollably, and he's terrified of what might happen if he doesn't figure things out soon. Max notices something's off and asks Ethan if he's okay, but Ethan brushes it off, pretending everything is fine. But he knows it's not. Later that night, Ethan experiences another strange occurrence. The symbol on his arm burns brightly, drawing him toward a nearby abandoned warehouse. The air is thick with tension as he walks into the dimly lit space. He can feel something or someone watching him. Suddenly, Zane appears. But he's not the person Ethan thought he was. Zane is a rogue chosen one, someone who has embraced their power fully, using it for their own gain. Zane reveals that he has been sent to test Ethan, to see if he is truly worthy of his powers. The rogue wants to see if Ethan is strong enough to fight and survive in this world of chosen ones and dark forces. As Zane steps forward, the air crackles with energy. He releases a blast of dark energy that pushes Ethan back. Ethan instinctively retaliates, unleashing his own power. The two clash in the middle of the warehouse, a brilliant and terrifying display of light and shadow. But as the fight intensifies, something unexpected happens. A shadowy figure materializes between them, blocking the attacks. The cloaked figure speaks to both of them, revealing that the war between the chosen ones is far from over. It warns Ethan that his journey will not be easy, that there are greater forces at play. With a flick of their hand, the figure stops the battle, leaving both Ethan and Zane in stunned silence. The cloaked figure then tells Ethan that the source of his power is linked to something far more dangerous than he could ever imagine. He's not just a chosen one, he's part of a much larger scheme. Before Ethan can respond, the figure disappears, leaving only darkness behind. Ethan stands alone in the empty warehouse, his mind racing with questions. What does it all mean? Why was he chosen? And who is this mysterious figure that seems to know so much about him? As Ethan walks away, the symbol on his arm pulses again, reminding him that his journey is just beginning. Ethan wakes up to find that the burning sensation in his arm has returned, stronger than before. The symbol on his arm is pulsating, and his dreams have become more vivid, filled with cryptic messages and dark imagery. The figure that appeared in the warehouse, warning him about his powers, has been haunting his thoughts. Ethan doesn't know whether to trust the cloaked figure, but the feeling that something terrible is coming is undeniable. At school, Ethan is distracted. The recent events have shaken him, and he can't help but wonder, what did the cloaked figure mean when they said he was part of something bigger? The weight of being chosen to wield this mysterious power is heavy, and he struggles to hide his anxiety from his friends, Max and Lily. They continue to notice that something is off, but Ethan brushes it off, not ready to share his burden. Meanwhile, Zane, the rogue chosen one, has been keeping a close eye on Ethan. After their encounter in the warehouse, Zane has become obsessed with Ethan, convinced that he's the key to unlocking something even darker. Ethan's powers are growing stronger, and Zane believes that if he can manipulate Ethan's abilities, he could be an unstoppable force. After school, Ethan heads to the park to clear his head. The sunlight feels warm, but his mind is clouded with doubts. As he walks through the park, he hears a rustling in the bushes. His heart races, but he stops in his tracks, sensing something or someone watching him. Out of the shadows, a familiar figure emerges. It's Zane. Zane stands there, his posture cold and unyielding. He doesn't say a word at first, but Ethan feels a heavy tension in the air. The two lock eyes, and Ethan can feel the power that Zane is trying to control, the dark energy that radiates from him. "You don't know who you're up against," Zane says, his voice low and intense. "You think you're the only one who has been chosen? You're not. There are others like us, people who have embraced their powers, people who understand what it takes to survive in this world." Ethan steps back, confusion written on his face. "What do you want from me?" he asks. Zane smirks, a dangerous gleam in his eyes. "I want you to understand the truth. Your powers aren't just a gift, they're a weapon. You can either choose to fight with me, or I'll show you what happens when you stand in my way." Before Ethan can respond, Zane gestures with his hand, and the ground beneath Ethan's feet shakes violently. Dark energy bursts from Zane, causing the trees around them to bend and crack. Ethan is thrown back, but he instinctively unleashes his own power, sending a shockwave of blue energy that pushes Zane back momentarily. However, Zane is quick to recover, and with a flick of his wrist, he summons a powerful blast of energy toward Ethan. The energy is so strong that it knocks Ethan to the ground, and for a moment he feels helpless. But then something changes. The symbol on his arm glows brighter than ever before, and Ethan feels an overwhelming surge of power. He stands up, the energy surrounding him like a protective shield. The blue glow from his arm intensifies, and for the first time, he feels completely in control. He channels his power into a concentrated blast, striking Zane's attack head-on and dissipating it in an explosion of light. Zane staggers back, visibly shocked by Ethan's sudden surge of power. His smirk fades, replaced with a look of disbelief. "You're stronger than I thought," Zane mutters, his eyes narrowing. But instead of continuing the fight, Zane turns and starts to walk away. "This isn't over," he says without looking back. "You've made your choice. We'll see if it's the right one." Ethan stands in the park, the symbol on his arm still glowing, his breath heavy. He doesn't know what Zane meant by the right choice, but he realizes that he's standing on the edge of something much bigger than himself. His powers are growing out of control, and there are more forces at play than he could ever have imagined. As Ethan watches Zane disappear into the distance, he knows one thing for sure. The choices he makes from now on will shape his destiny. Ethan had just finished a grueling training session with his powers, trying to control the wild energy that surged within him. As he wiped the sweat from his forehead, a feeling of unease settled in. He was getting stronger every day, but he still didn't understand why he was chosen. What was the purpose of these powers? And who was behind it all? Walking home from training, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He had been hearing rumors about a new group of people, ones who had powers like his. There were whispers of an underground battle, but no one seemed to know much about it. This only deepened the mystery for Ethan. That evening, as he sat in his room, he received an encrypted message on his phone. The message was from an anonymous source, urging him to meet at an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town. Ethan's heart raced. Could this be the key to understanding his powers? He decided to go, knowing that it could be dangerous. As he arrived at the warehouse, his heart pounded in his chest. There, standing in the shadows, was another figure. A girl about his age, but with strange, glowing eyes. She introduced herself as Lyra, a wielder, someone with powers tied to the same source as Ethan's. Lyra told Ethan that there was a secret war between the people who wielded these powers. Some sought to control them for good, others for destruction. Lyra warned Ethan that he had to be careful who he trusted because not everyone was on the same side. The mysterious force that gave them their powers had its own agenda, and it wasn't always clear what that was. Ethan was shocked. He had thought his powers were a gift, but now he realized they were part of a much bigger, more dangerous world. Lyra gave him a piece of advice. Find the source, Ethan. It will lead you to the truth. But be careful. The closer you get, the more dangerous it will become. With this new knowledge, Ethan left the warehouse with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. He was no longer just chasing answers for himself. He was now part of something much bigger, and the road ahead would be filled with challenges he never expected. Will Ethan uncover the truth about his powers and the mysterious source? Stay tuned for the next episode to find out what happens next in Ethan, the Chosen One. Ethan had been thinking nonstop about the mysterious source of his powers. Lyra's warning still echoed in his mind. The closer you get, the more dangerous it becomes. But what did that truly mean? Ethan knew he couldn't do this alone, and he wasn't sure who to trust anymore. Back in his room, he decided to study everything he had learned so far. As he scrolled through his phone, he came across a strange news article. Local police report unexplained attacks in downtown. It sounded like the kind of strange event that could be linked to the wielders, the people with powers like him. The article mentioned an attack at a local tech company, where several employees had been injured. The odd thing? There were no signs of weapons or any clear explanation of what happened. But something about it felt wrong, unnatural. That night, Ethan decided to investigate. He wasn't sure what he was hoping to find, but the article led him to the tech company. It was late, and the building was quiet. The faint hum of machinery filled the air, and the moonlight cast eerie shadows across the windows. As Ethan snuck into the building, he noticed something strange. The doors were unlocked, and the security cameras appeared to be malfunctioning. Who would leave a place like this wide open? He thought. It's almost like they're waiting for me. Suddenly, he heard a noise. Footsteps approaching. Ethan's heart raced. He ducked behind a row of machines, trying to stay hidden. Two figures entered the room. One was a man with a dark hoodie, and the other was a woman, her eyes glowing with energy. She seemed familiar. Could it be another wielder? The woman, sensing Ethan's presence, turned and smirked. I knew you'd come, she said, her voice echoing through the room. The man with her stepped forward, revealing that he too had glowing eyes, just like Ethan. They were wielders, and it was clear they weren't here to talk. Ethan quickly sprang into action, summoning his powers. Blue energy crackled around his fists as he confronted the two strangers. Who are you? He demanded. What do you want? The woman laughed. We're the ones who keep balance in this world, Ethan. We control the powers, you just don't know it yet. The man lunged at Ethan, forcing him to defend himself. Ethan blocked the attack but was thrown backward into a wall. He barely had time to react before the woman fired a powerful energy blast at him. He barely dodged in time, realizing he had to fight back more intelligently than ever before. You're just a pawn in a game you don't understand, she shouted. Ethan gritted his teeth. I don't care. I'll figure this out, no matter what. He used his powers to create a barrier of blue energy, repelling the attacks. The woman tried to overpower him, but he had learned more control over his abilities. With a swift move, Ethan countered and knocked her back. Before Ethan could catch his breath, the two figures disappeared, leaving only a lingering energy in the air. Ethan stood there, shaken but determined. He wasn't sure who these people were, but one thing was certain. He was not alone in this fight. With more questions than ever, Ethan left the building. But as he looked up at the stars, he knew his journey had just begun. Ethan has learned to control his newfound powers, but the journey to discover the truth about the fragment source is far from over. He continues to explore his abilities, testing his limits, and understanding the mysterious force that has chosen him. But despite the incredible power at his fingertips, there's a nagging question in the back of his mind. Why me? Late one night, Ethan sneaks into the hidden chamber beneath the city where the source was first discovered. There has to be something I missed, he mutters to himself, scanning the room for clues. As his hand brushes against an ancient tablet in the corner, a soft light begins to pulse from the fragment source, and a hologram-like projection flickers to life. It's a message from the past, one that answers Ethan's questions but raises new ones. To the Guardian, the voice of an elder echoes. The source chose you not for your strength, but for your heart. You will face a great trial, one that will test not only your power but your very soul. The source is more than a tool. It is a key. Suddenly, the cloaked figure from before appears. The key, the figure repeats, stepping from the shadows. You were always meant to be the one who unlocks the true potential of the source. The question is, Ethan, will you choose to control it, or will it control you? Ethan, startled by the sudden appearance, takes a step back. Who are you really? What is the source? He demands, frustration boiling over. And why did it choose me? The cloaked figure hesitates before speaking, their voice filled with sorrow. The source is the heart of all the wielders. It's what gives them their power, but it also binds them. To use it comes at a cost. The source is older than time itself, and now it's waking up, calling out to you. But there's one more thing you need to know. There's a force that wants the source destroyed, and they will stop at nothing to get it. As the figure turns to leave, a shadowy figure appears behind them, a member of the wielders, determined to take control of the source. The time for answers is over. The wielder sneers, launching a powerful attack at Ethan. But Ethan's powers surge in response, and he barely manages to defend himself. The fight is intense, with Ethan barely able to hold his ground. He realizes his control over his powers isn't as complete as he thought. But as the battle rages, he catches a glimpse of something strange. The source begins to react to his emotions, glowing brighter the more he taps into his inner strength. With a burst of energy, Ethan unleashes a massive wave of power, knocking the wielder off balance. The wielder retreats, warning him that the true danger is still out there. As they vanish into the shadows, Ethan knows that his journey is far from over. Ethan has uncovered a secret, but the danger is just beginning. What's next for the Chosen One? Find out in Episode 8. The next morning, Ethan meets with Lyra to share the new information he's learned. The source isn't just a weapon. It's a key, Ethan explains. It has the power to unlock something, but what that is, I don't know yet. Lyra, always by Ethan's side, nods thoughtfully. There's more to the source than we know. You can feel its power, but it's not just about what you can do with it. It's about what it represents. The wielders aren't the only ones after it. Just then, a new threat emerges. A mysterious figure, dressed in black armor, arrives in the city, causing chaos wherever they go. Ethan feels a strange pull toward the figure, as if something about them is connected to the source. The figure reveals themselves to be a rogue wielder, and they challenge Ethan to a battle. The source belongs to those who can control it, the rogue declares. You're not worthy, Ethan. I've spent my life mastering its power. You are just a child playing with something far beyond your understanding. Ethan is determined to prove that he can handle the responsibility. The battle between the two is intense. The rogue's powers are overwhelming, and Ethan is pushed to his limits. "I won't let you control the source any longer," Ethan shouts, his voice filled with resolve. As the fight escalates, Ethan begins to tap into the hidden depths of his abilities. He can feel the source responding to his emotions, growing stronger with every blow he lands. But the rogue is relentless, and just as Ethan is about to be struck down, Lyra intervenes. With Lyra's help, Ethan manages to break free from the rogue's grasp. The two of them join forces, unleashing a final, powerful attack that knocks the rogue wielder unconscious. But the fight isn't over. There are still others out there, and they'll stop at nothing to claim the source for themselves. The rogue wielder has been defeated, but the true enemy is still out there. Don't miss episode 9. Ethan is exhausted after the battle, but he knows he can't rest for long. He and Lyra are tracking down clues to the identity of the mysterious figure that has been hunting them. They head to an ancient library hidden beneath the city, where old tomes may hold the answers they need. As they search the library, they discover more about the history of the fragment source. "It's not just a power source," Lyra reads aloud. "It's the heart of the wielders. Whoever controls it can change the course of history." Ethan feels a chill run down his spine. So, the source isn't just a weapon. It's a godlike entity. And if someone uses it to control time, they could change everything. Suddenly, the library door slams shut. Ethan and Lyra are trapped, and an ominous presence fills the air. They turn to find a new enemy, one that Ethan has never seen before. The figure is cloaked in dark robes, their face hidden beneath a hood. "I am the Watcher," the figure intones. "I guard the secrets of the source. You are not meant to know what lies beyond this threshold." Ethan prepares for another battle, but the Watcher's power is unlike anything he's faced before. The Watcher controls time itself, freezing the room around them and creating clones to fight Ethan and Lyra. Ethan struggles to fight back, but his powers aren't enough to break the Watcher's hold on time. "You cannot fight what you do not understand," the Watcher warns. "The source will be the end of you, just as it has been the end of many before you." In a desperate move, Ethan taps into the deepest part of his power, summoning the source itself. The source responds, and with a surge of energy, Ethan shatters the Watcher's time-bending control. "I'm not afraid of you," Ethan yells as he delivers the final blow. The Watcher vanishes, but they leave behind a cryptic message. "The source is not your ally, Ethan. It will destroy you as it has destroyed many before you." Ethan is shaken by the warning but knows that he has no choice but to continue. The source has chosen him, and now it's up to him to control it, or destroy it before it consumes him. The Watcher has warned Ethan of the source's true power, but can Ethan survive? Find out in episode 10. As the dust settles from the battle, Ethan regains consciousness. His body is bruised, and his energy feels drained. But his mind is racing with questions. The mysterious cloaked figure that has been guiding him, the wielder's pursuit, and the secrets of the fragment source. All of it weighs heavily on him. He's lying in a hidden chamber beneath the city, the walls illuminated by the faint glow of the fragment source. The source pulses with an eerie light, and Ethan feels its power coursing through the air. It's almost as if the source is aware of him, calling him. As he sits up, Lyra enters the room. "Are you all right?" she asks, kneeling next to him. Her face shows concern, but there's a sadness in her eyes. Ethan nods weakly, rubbing his temples. "I'm not sure what to think anymore," he admits. "This power, it's not just mine. It's a part of me, but it's also something bigger than I am." Lyra takes a deep breath. "The fragment source is connected to you in ways no one fully understands. You're the guardian, Ethan. That means you're the only one who can choose the future of the wielders, and of everyone who's ever used a fragment." Suddenly, the cloaked figure reappears. "Ethan," the figure calls, their voice deep and resonating in his mind. "It's time to decide. You're not just a hero. You're the key. You can end this cycle or control it, but know this, either choice comes with a price." Ethan stands up, his heart racing. He faces the figure and demands answers. What do you mean? Why me? Why was I chosen? The figure steps forward, pulling back their hood. To Ethan's surprise, it's a familiar face. Someone he's seen in his dreams. I've been watching you, Ethan. You were always meant for this role. The fragment source chose you because it knew you could be the one to either destroy it or control it. And now, it's time for you to choose. The source, now glowing brighter, seems to resonate with the figure's words. It's as if it knows this is the moment of truth. Ethan takes a deep breath, stepping toward the source. What happens if I destroy it? He asks. It will cease to exist, and so will the wielder's powers. The figure replies. But remember, the source isn't just a weapon. It's the heart of the wielders. Without it, the world will change in ways you can't even imagine. But if you take control, Ethan's hands tremble as he reaches out toward the source. The power calls to him, and for a moment he can feel everything. The past, the future, all the lives that have been touched by the fragment source. It's overwhelming, but also intoxicating. I can't let it fall into the wrong hands, he says, looking at Lyra. Suddenly, the wielders burst into the room, led by the woman who has been chasing Ethan for so long. It's over, Ethan, she says, her eyes burning with hatred. We will control the fragment source, and you will be our puppet. But Ethan doesn't flinch. He's ready. I won't let you do that, he says firmly. A fierce battle ensues as the wielders attack. Ethan struggles to keep control of his power, and for a moment he feels himself losing. But then, the source responds to his emotions. It grows even stronger, and a surge of energy flows through him, knocking the wielders back. In that instant, Ethan realizes something crucial. He's not just the guardian. I am the guardian of balance, he declares, and I'll protect the source from anyone who tries to use it for destruction. With one final burst of energy, Ethan creates a powerful barrier around the source, sending the wielders flying backward. The barrier is unlike anything he's ever done before. It's as if the source is merging with his very being, amplifying his powers to their peak. The wielders retreat, unable to break through. They've lost for now. But Ethan knows the fight is far from over. The source still hums with untapped power, and he understands that he's now its protector. Not just from the wielders, but from the world itself. Ethan has made his choice, but the journey is far from over. What will happen to the source? Find out in the next chapter of Ethan, the Chosen One.